Welcome to Wadsworth History on Film, a program presented by the Wadsworth Area Historical Society and designed to record the oral history of Wadsworth for posterity. I'm Cesar Carino, your host, and our guest today is someone who has been on the program twice, and fortunately, he is here the third time, and we were hoping that he wouldn't have had to come this time, and you'll understand that statement in a couple of minutes. We have Homer Baldwin, and Homer, I guess it's just fair to say that probably you suffered one of the most spectacular house destructions that the city of Wadsworth has known its 185 history, and we would like to have you talk about it. I know that you probably are tired of talking about it, but I think that historians will want to know about this in the future. Before we do that, I think that it would be good for us, for the people who did not see your other two programs, to tell us a little bit about who you are, whom you married, and family, and so forth and so on, because that'll set the stage for where we've been with you. First of all, you're a native of Wadsworth, and tell us about your uncles and your and all of those people way back when, about 150 years or so of Wadsworth.
Let's say once upon a time, the first Baldwin that was in Wadsworth was my grandfather. His name was Homer A. Baldwin, and he came from Pennsylvania, and he was a dentist. And he was up in the air over where Lodrex was on the square. Grandpa Baldwin was the first. My grandchildren are the fifth generation in this town.
5 generations.
All the way down through, yeah. And so we've been here a while and a half. Even though our jobs take us out, we always came home again. And we've got a wild gene running amok through the family. It's in the arts. It covers music, writing, and painting.
And you have a lot of those, too.
It seems like sometimes it skips a part of a generation, but not a whole generation.
Not a whole generation.
They keep going along all the time.
Well, your whole family's artistic. You married an artistic woman.
Oh, yes.
And tell us whom you married and who she was and who her family, the long relationship here with Wadsworth, the Robinsons.
Okay, well, Phyllis Robinson is my wife. I first saw her as a unique human being about the age of 16, 17, her age, not mine. And after I got through with the service, we got married and started on our journey through life.
Through life.
Yeah.
You're talking about her age and your age and so forth. You were born 27?
27, and she was born in 29.
29. So
and her parents were George Hap Robinson and Maud Robinson. They lived on Crestwood Avenue.
And they lived here for years and years and years.
Yeah, sure.
And
Hap
he was at the
Chemical, yeah. He was foreman over there, and everybody knew him.
Tell us just a little bit about the artistic families and who they are and all of that, because all of them, I mean, even the ones that married into the family are artistic.
Yeah, that's true.
Your family is artistic. Tell us about your son, Tom.
Well, Tom is...
That's son Tom, not brother Tom, because we'll go to him in a second.
Oh, yeah. Son Tom has got a unique capability, and it's almost, I looked at it and tried to analyze it, it's like both of our capabilities, Phyllis and mine, put into one. He can conjure up and make it worthwhile, and he's picked up a lot of things in his 40-some-odd years.
Tommy is 47-odd years.
Yeah, he's
just born yesterday.
He's a grandfather.
He's a grandfather.
I can understand him being a grandfather. I mean, my being a great-grandfather. But I will never in this world understand how my son could become a grandfather.
But he is.
Yes, we have one great-grandchild.
That is so great.
Yeah.
And you have other children as well.
Yeah, my other son, Scott. Those are the two boys that are here at Wadsworth. And Scott's a printer up toward the Cleveland area, and he and his wife Nancy have raised some just beautiful youngsters, 2 boys and a girl.
And you have a daughter, too.
Yeah, I have 2 daughters.
2 daughters.
One is here now visiting for a little celebration this next weekend. Her name is Laurel, and Lori and her daughter Nissa are here from Washington.
And Laurel's about 30 years old now, isn't she?
In there somewhere, yeah. She was our youngest born. And then coming in tonight will be my oldest child, firstborn, Jane. And Jane is
close to 50.
Been happily employed for 30 years in Boston, Massachusetts, and loves it. She wouldn't leave the Charles River. Arthur Fiedler died. She still stayed there.
She still stayed there.
But she goes down there.
She goes down there. Now then, Tom's family, your brother Tom, Tom's daughter is an accomplished musician.
Brenda.
Brenda, an accomplished
Yeah.
musician, plays
I
beautifully.
think she picked it up from my Uncle Gordon, who was my father's brother.
Okay, tell us about Gordon.
Oh,
I used to work with
I'll
Gordon.
tell you about what I remember hearing about him, and that is that he went to Rochester and Juilliard schools of music, graduated from both of them. And he played all over the United States. He was one of these cocktail players and with orchestras and Guy Lombardo and a whole bunch of them. He was right up there with the big names. And it cost him because they turned him into an alcoholic. People would love what he was doing, put a drink on the piano, and that was it.
Yeah.
After a while.
I worked with him at the weighing station in
Oh, yeah,
1954.
sure. Yeah, you did,
He and I worked
okay.
together. And he was married at that time to Alva Hartman Brittlinger Baldwin.
Brittlinger,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. A school teacher in
Yeah.
town. And you have such a tremendous family. And we did go into those in the last two that we did of you, but it's so good to hear once again because they are such an outstanding group of people.
Well, he was unique. He knew by rote about 500 or 600 piano pieces. And he would playing with an organ in one hand, a piano in the other,
Remember
without
that.
music. And he could do it. He really could do it.
He's good.
He was
very,
bred in
very
his
good.
bone. That's all there is to it.
And Brenda is very, very good
And
too.
Brenda is top rate in this generation.
She surely is.
I shot some videos in and around her with the Methodist Church, and one day I hope to do one just on her, because
She's
there's a gal with a
church
lot of,
organist at the
lot
Methodist
of
Church now.
moxie. Okay,
Yes,
she
she
knows
is.
the way she came, and she worked every bit of it.
You bet she did. She did. That's a
Yeah.
great thing. And Tom, your brother, another
Yeah.
outstanding person.
Tom is stationary in this town. He took over from my father, Vance, in the filling station business, and then later on transferred into the school system and took care of that whole big fleet of buses out there.
He did a beautiful job.
He's
too.
retired now, and a township trustee, and he does a few jobs here and there, just keep him from getting too lazy, I guess.
Well, the Baldwins can't get lazy. The unfortunate thing is that you had a fortune, and the fortune is that you had this house which was unique, and we'd like to have you tell us about that. I wonder if it wouldn't be a good idea at this point to have you give us a little description of where this house was conceived, what it was, where it
Okay.
was located, and so forth. And then I think we have some footage on a film that we can show of what happened to it.
Okay. Well,
I like your words, married to the earth.
yeah, well, that's exactly what it was. I didn't have tape 20 years ago, unfortunately. I had just gotten out of the film business, so I didn't have film, but I had a 35 millimeter camera, and so I shot slides. All the time it was being built and afterwards and whatever. And I transferred those to tape, and I made one called Earth Song. That was the title of it. And it just starts out very simply with marrying the house to the earth, because that's basically what we do. And indicating that we'd have to have a license. I got a fellow signing the zoning certificate. And the bank would have an interest in it, little play on words there, etc. And we brought it into being. And I made them swear that they would stay with each other as long as their nails would hold, or something like that. Anyway, it lasted for 20 years. And then on January 4th of this year, the house, which is called a berm house, which means that it sits in the side of a hill and its roof is exposed.
You designed it, though.
Well,
The concept.
I had the concept 40, 50 years ago at the Agrarian Institute. It was a school problem. They said, design the kind of house you'd like to live in. So I grabbed the old Kansas jobs that were stuck in the side of a hill. It's the only way they got across that bloody state. And I built one into the side of a hill. And we hired an architect then, Merle Myers, who really further embellished the simple design. He really put his heart into it. He walked the area, got elevations, and he turned what should have been a one-story facing east into an L shape in the bend of the creek, as it were. And it became a real place of enjoyment for Philly and I for 20 years, and that's why we want to rebuild it. We
In the same
can't be
spot.
worrying about what happened any more than we can wish we had a different love affair when we were kids. That's pointless thought. It just goes way back. It has no function at all.
That's right, exactly.
So we're looking forward to getting it rebuilt. We're going to change it slightly, but not much. But the plans are being worked on now, and I'm looking forward to seeing that baby walk up to meet the sky again.
January 4th, what happened?
Well, we had
1999, let's make sure we get that.
yeah, right. We had a regulator valve, which is on the outside. First off, we feed from the gas from an oil well that it belongs to 5 of us.
Natural gas.
Yeah, and have for 13, 14 years. And Philly smelled gas one day, and she looked out there on the deck. It's all outside. And she could see fumes coming from the regulator, which is one of the devices that they use there, which cuts down pressure from the well to the inside of the house, like from 28 pounds to 2 pounds. And it was during the New Year, and we called Plumbing and Heating and had them come up, and they had the wrong valve, so they had to go back to Worcester. And on the 4th, after the holidays were over, they came up and put it on. Now, I was in and out all the time. Phyllis was in and out too, but mostly working in the kitchen. We had a massive stone fireplace there, and that protected my wife. There wasn't a hair out of place after the explosion, and yet you could see all around the roof where the ceiling and the roof came together, a big jag, which meant that the whole roof had to do that. And I had been in the living room doing something, I forget what it was, but I like to work in there. I may have been reviewing a tape or something, but anyway, I was in the living room, and I walked out to my studio. Now, my studio is my painting studio, but I've also enlarged it to handle other things. I do woodworking out there. At the present time, I was building a model airplane, believe it or not, and that airplane is designed to go against a big backing called chroma key like you use in photography. I won't go into that, but that's what it was for. And I was starting to work on the fuselage that I had some things drying. I just walked by and once in a while I put a stick in or change this or pin it down, go on my way because I had other things to do. Just a nice little thing to just keep going. And bang, tremendous percussion. I am not kidding. I think the walls and the window came in like this and went right back out again, the garage. And it's about 40 feet away from the house. I ran out right away. And the tape will show you what I saw. I couldn't believe it. Philly coming out was saying, my golly, this is going to be a big mess to clean up. She told me that. That was her biggest. And she had stopped.
Oh, look at the dust.
Yeah. She had stopped after deboning the chicken to wipe her hands.
The explosion.
She remembered telling that.
She's
after the
deboning
explosion.
chicken.
Yeah.
And she stopped to wash her hands. And
Well,
came
she
out and
didn't
said,
wash
"What
them,
is
but she wiped them off and then calmly walked out of that thing, picking her way over the furniture and glass and debris and looking at that massive hole and saying, boy, how am I going to get this cleaned up? And I'm looking at it thinking, my first thought was, how in thunder am I going to close this tonight? It's going to be cold. It was about 10 above zero then, see? And then I saw exactly what we had. We had nothing to enclose. The whole east and the north end had been blown out. And then I started down the steps, and the guy who had been working on the heat line, the gas line, was picking himself up and coming up the steps, and I said something about my wife, and just then she walks out of the, looking around like, my, what a fine day it is. Absolutely in shock.
That's
I wouldn't say she was
miraculous.
unruffled, but Philly is pretty straight-minded on things, and when you get an emergency or a situation, she got her mind in the middle.
Well,
But anyway,
that's the school teacher in her.
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah,
There's a
because,
lot to it.
You bet, because school teachers have to be emergency people all the time.
Yeah.
You never know what a kid is going to do.
Sure. So anyway, she got up, and I ran for my camera then. I estimate about 1 minute and 40 seconds after the detonation, I was shooting. because I have a camera in the garage, and it's always charged and loaded. I didn't have a tape, but I grabbed one I had out there and something else and threw it in and was shooting, as long as those two people were okay. And I was about to go down the steps and start shooting the interior when somebody says smoke. So I turned the camera on that, and 35 minutes later, our house was history.
We have some pictures of it.
Yes, sir.
Can we show those?
Oh, yeah.
I think
sure.
it'd be because that'll tell us so much more than we can just describe. It's impossible to describe.
It starts out with the original contract and the feeling that Phyllis and I had for the house 20 years ago, and then it cuts pretty quick to the...
Let's watch that. Let's
Sure.
watch that.
The land had been there for a while, long enough for waters to fashion the valley and expose the rock beneath, long enough for trees to root deep and grow large and shadowy and thick. Small animals and flowers lived beside the water and beneath the leaves. Trees fell to become a part of the earth. First there was the land, then a trace running through the woods, then a road, and finally a man. Hear us, Earth Mother. We are your guests for a while, and we will need a shelter. We have thought of a house. It will be low and fit the bend of the creek, and we hope be part of the majesty of this place. We will clear a place of brush and trees, no larger than we can use, and nothing will be wasted. Our house will be of the earth. We will marry our house to the earth. There will be a minister. We'll call him a contractor. And we'll obtain a license, and the bank can give the house away. They'll have some interest in it, no doubt. And there will be many attendants. House, you'll be in very good hands. Now, Earth, repeat after me. I do take this house in sunlight and in lightning, with wood smoke and electric lights, not forsaking children's laughter, as long as my leaves shall dance in the wind. House, say after me. I do take this part of earth to be my place in winter and in summer, in shrinking wood and hydrostatic pressure, not forsaking insects and humidity, as long as my nails shall hold. That's the idea.
for storage. Engine 3, this thing is fully involved. Fully involved.
Engine 3 on the scene, 1451.
Put her on the road and get her over close to light if you can, Gary.
Want to start with the 2.5 feet?
That's it.
Oh, that's absolutely incredible. Of course, the most incredible thing is that you are here to tell it. And Phyllis, I saw walking around in there. What was she looking for, incidentally?
Just watching. It's the same way I was, only I had a camera to my eye. There was nothing else we could do.
Nothing.
Nothing.
What was she doing there toward the end, the day after the fire?
She was looking for a real diamond. 2 years ago at Christmas, I have never bought Phyllis too many things, but I keep trying to surprise her. So since I had never, I bought her a diamond at Thurber's, and it was on a chain, and she had it in a jewelry box, which Clem Clifford had made. It was a nice box made out of cherry right from our property, and it had one of these tinkle, 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 tinkle in the bottom drawer, you know.
Music box.
Yeah, a music box. And she remembered roughly where it was at. So she went straight down and she found this gob of frozen ashes, this, that, and the other thing, and picked it up and took it up to our friends Arlen and Susie Reininger, where we stayed for a couple of days after the fire. And she kept it in a bowl, and then finally she ran water on it and found the jewel inside a metal box. Opened it up, and there it was. And it was all, it was tarnished and everything, but still, it was still intact. And she took it back to Thurber's, and Thurber's cleaned it up, and then they wouldn't accept any money at all for it or anything.
Is that right?
But he
That's
cleaned
right.
it up. It's nice.
I heard you say something there which is so prominent in families like yours, where you don't have to have riches, you don't have to have diamonds and so forth.
Oh, no.
I've known Phyllis all my life, well, for
Sure.
60 years, 50, 55, 60 years, and one of the humblest people in the world. Do you have any recollections of some of the wee little things that you got her that she really, really misses now that there's no longer there?
Well, perhaps not so much that I got her, but things that she had. She puts a very heavy accent on historical things. Mm-hmm. On the fireplace was a piece that she had put together, which had my grandmother's tatting and scissors and different things. Some things that my mother had given her. Philly puts a strong feeling on what was and can't be replaced.
Right.
Her grandfather's dry chest and things that are irreplaceable, but you have to accept the philosophy. If they're gone, they're gone. Caesar's almost like to be a good gambler. By God, you had better be able to lose if you're going to gamble. Mm-hmm. And that's the same way life is a big
gamble.
Bloody gamble too. And you've got to take the philosophy that if you lose, and you keep on going. You don't just pack it in and call it a day. And that's what Phyllis and I have done. Thank God I have a wife who thinks like I do, or thank God I think like my wife does. Mm-hmm. Now there's a vast difference in the way we think, in what we think about. But we feel pretty much the same after all these years on various aspects. Of course, she's smarter than I am, and so I do a heck of a lot more listening than she does. But once in a while, I can get something through, from my point of view. But anyway, we've got our 50th wedding anniversary coming up here pretty quick, and we've invited all our old friends who had something to do with our lives. That's what a wedding anniversary is, as far as I'm concerned. Not that we kept together 50 years, but that we had 50 years in which to enrich ourselves from the people who surrounded us. So anybody coming to the party has had something to do with our life.
Your lives, talking
Absolutely.
about...
We're sharing it with them.
All of these people who came together, the devastation usually brings communities together. But you had a very special kind of relationship with this community. Your whole family has, and her whole family has, and all of that. What are some of the things that happened? What are some of the things that really, really made you think wow, these people are out there? And
this was always my place. I spent 8 years carrying mail before I went to film school, and I loved it. I made sure that the people on my route, I got to know them, and they got to know me. But it was really of service, and I felt necessary. And that's, I think, very important in anything you do. But this is our town, and we got the long stories. Homer Liebert told me a story once about my grandfather. And my grandfather had about the third or fourth car in town, and one day they had the temerity of the city fathers to put up a red light on the square. And Homer lived on First Street up there, and he used to grandfather picked up Homer and would bring him down to school. And they're approaching the intersection down there where the island is and everything. And Homer said, Doc Baldwin, don't you think you ought to slow down for that red light? And he said, my grandfather sailed right through it and said, but boy, that red light doesn't mean a damn thing to me, and pulled up in front of his place and got out. Homer used to carry his newspaper, Cleveland Plain Dealer, and he knew every day that he delivered it that my grandfather would set him in the dental chair, and then he'd sit on another chair and read him the front page and the implication it would have on him in the future.
No kidding. Your grandfather did this with Homer Liebert.
Yeah.
Now tell us just quickly, for the audience benefit, who Homer Liebert is. I mean, we know him, but...
Well, Homer Liebert was with Abrams and Liebert and Friedley for a long time. That's where I...
Insurance company.
Yeah, insurance company. And I knew him personally. His wife died before him, and that was a sad time. And Homer was always just around this town. He was a part of it.
Well, he was, and his father was Herb Liebert.
Okay, I didn't know him.
And Herb Liebert was a township trustee, and I think that's correct. Yeah. So they have been around.
Yeah.
And now these implications probably came through for Homer because he was a very successful person.
Oh yeah.
A very successful person.
He's a nice guy, too.
Yes.
I knew him
yes.
from a stock club that I belonged in, plus occasionally footlighters. He was just always around this town. Very active.
You know, there are so many tangents to what we could talk about here, and we want to hear every single one of them, obviously, but the one I think that, the ones I should think are the most prominent here are how this community turned out. Would you care to talk about how the community turned out after the explosion?
Yes, I definitely would. Before I forget it, one of the first things that I want to impress on the viewing public are two things. One, if you don't have a safe or a safe deposit box, you must have one. And the best investment in the world, because when everything is wiped out and all you have of yesterday is inside that safe, or all you have of tomorrow is inside that safe, it's a pretty heavy marginal thing. You want to get it out of there. And if the safe holds it, that's got it all done. So that's one of the things that should be remembered. Now then, some of the other aspects beside that are videoing all your property in your house. If you're a fella, you shoot it and let your wife go around and tell you how much it cost and what year, and just keep it rolling as much as you can. You have no idea how this kind of thing will help in the estimated loss with the insurance company.
And that's
Right.
something.
Right. In this case, the video of the blasted house and the sustaining fire and everything, the explosion people out of Columbus took one frame of my video, took it to Columbus in the laboratory, enhanced it digitally, and they came to some conclusions, which I haven't heard yet, but that's what they told me they did. And we had contents in the safe. The tape was shot in 1991, and the contents, that's where it was, and the contents showed what we had in 91. Even my old cars, I mean, they're old now, but I started out with the cars in the garage and inside the rooms and the houses, contents, and when we bought it, and just, you know, it's a personal thing.
Yeah.
But boy, when you need it, it's the best witness you've got. So I strongly advise people just thinking about it. If you don't believe me, go on out to Gogler Locksmith and take a look at our safe out there in display.
What's it like, just out of curiosity?
Oh, it's all rusted, okay, and it's charred, but the contents were intact. Now, most safes you should buy should have 2 hours of fire and 3 hours of water protection.
Now, when you're talking about a safe, you're not talking about a great big safe, are you?
No, it's about the size you're showing there.
About that size, about 2 feet by...
Well, like I say. Just enough to keep your important papers in, and maybe a video of your equipment.
Of your equipment. That is good advice. You know, no one wants to ever use it, but that's the insurance policy.
It just doesn't take that long. Heck, if you're an Indian hunter, I reckon you'd like to learn to read smoke and sign.
You bet.
The same thing.
You bet.
If you're in the Indian country, you better learn to read smoke and sign, and that's what an inventory, a video inventory of your household does for you.
At one point on January 4th, what time did this happen?
2:30 in the afternoon.
2:30 in the afternoon. At 2:29 in the afternoon, you had everything that you needed. Toothbrushes, food, toothpicks, boots, clothes, perfume, shaving lotion, and everything.
Not to mention the fact that we didn't expect to spend the winter in this fashion, in somebody's strange house.
I would imagine. What did you have at 2:32?
At 2:32, all I had was a long dream gone wild, that's all. The house was down and bleeding, in effect, and there were Philly and I, so we knew we had to do something to get it back on.
And all you had
we were in a
was...
state of shock. We weren't sitting there evaluating, well, this. But we knew what we had to do. There was never any question of a negative position. We'll move out of here into a condo. We've had enough of this. I'm 71 and a half, almost 72, and Philly's almost 70. And yet, I tell you, we love that country. It is really a neat place.
It's yours.
Yeah, it's a neat place.
You're married to it as well.
Yeah.
When you married the house
Well,
to the land,
we
you
did.
married yourself to the house and the land.
And it's like, what did I say? It's like being a gambler. Did I say that just a few minutes
Yes,
ago?
indeed we did.
I believe it very strongly. And you don't have to be afraid of it. You just have to be aware of it.
Now, you had a dream that went shot.
Yeah.
What were the earthly possessions that you had left? What you were wearing?
Uh-huh.
That is it.
Yeah.
Not a thing else.
No.
You know,
Both of us, we were running around in 5 and 10 degree above zero in just little sweaters. That's what I had. Philly wouldn't let me wear my good sweaters out to work anywhere. So
you had an old sweater on.
I had an old sweater on. A neighbor came up to me and gave me a full jacket with a hood and the whole thing that they get from the Ford Motor Company every year, and her husband wanted me to have it. And boy, that sure warmed me up. Phyllis is sitting inside the EMS vehicle by that time, and one of the boys that was on the heating supply came and gave her his jacket. It was kind of yellow and kind of dirty and everything, but it sure warmed her up.
Of course
That
it
was just
would.
the beginning where people started looking out for us.
That
In a
night,
myriad of ways.
that evening, you had no place to eat. You had to go somewhere.
Yeah.
After you ate, you couldn't brush your teeth. No toothbrushes.
No, we had nothing.
Nothing. Tell us how that evolved.
Well, we went to, that night after the fire, we went to Kmart. We bought $113 worth of underwear, socks, this, that, the other thing, see. So at least we had some change, but the rest of it was 3 days before we could change our clothing. We stayed at my son Tom's house the first night, okay? Just a bed, no, that's it. Next morning we were to leave for friends of ours, 3 days up at Sharon Center. His name is Arlen Reininger. He's the man who designed and built Valley View Lake Park. And he's built a castle up there. It'd be worth interviewing him. You've got to believe me. 17 years we worked together to make a film on the elk. 17 years. before he
17
quit.
years.
Yep.
And that film is now in the
Film's
fire.
right here,
Oh,
in this studio.
in this studio. Fortunately, you had some of those films here.
It's called Colorado 100 Years from Yesterday. And that's his film, it's not mine. I just helped him. That was in the film days, not tape. It was a different time. But anyway, we lived up there with Arlen and Susie for 3 days. And in that interim, the mail and telephone calls started coming in. They came to Tom and my son Scott. They knew that they were, but they couldn't find us.
That's the way with me. I called Tom, your brother,
Yeah,
and I couldn't get your son Tom's telephone because it was busy.
one day he just closed up shop. People were lying 6 deep in the store, he said, and the telephone wouldn't quit ringing. So he just shut his business down to try to take care of everybody. And of course, they knew where we were, but I had said, you decide whether it's something that's critical or not. Mom and I just got to get out of this thing and start making lists of what we're going to do and how we're going to do it and what the manner is without too much interruption. We just want to be secluded.
Let's get over the shock.
Yeah,
Nothing
well,
else.
yeah, we were just then beginning to feel it. And the weather was against it. This snowed for a week. We couldn't get out, couldn't do anything, couldn't buy clothes, couldn't contact a contractor, couldn't, we were just jammed up.
More than likely, you didn't have
waiting.
keys to your car with you, did you?
No, I didn't get my car for a day and a half because all the keys were in the house and were burned up.
How did you do it then?
Well, I got Goggler out there, and they tried a couple of them with the manufacturer's number. Nah, didn't work at all. So I said, get him out here and let me yank that ignition out of there and get a key that'll fit. Then we had ability to get around. Always before that, we were always waiting for somebody or this, and it drives me crazy. I want to be able to make a move when I want to make it, unless it's impossible. And it wasn't impossible. So we finally got our automobile, and so we were free. We needed a few dollars, and we contacted the insurance company, and they advanced us some money right away. So there we were. We had wheels, we were free, and we had money. What more could you ask at the age of 72?
So true.
So anyway, we just started putting things together, and it was about that time that Tom and Sally O'Neill live on Simcox Street, and we've known them for years. As a matter of fact, Sally and Phyllis were going to Kent State. They were both pregnant back in the old days, okay, with their youngest children. And so they rode together. They knew each other for a long time, and I've known Tom the time I carried mail in this town. I carried mail for 8 years, and it was real good work as far as I was concerned. But Tom was driving to Medina, I understand, and said, my God, Phyllis and Homer could take over our place, because they were headed for the Caribbean for a month. They have a place down there. And so they got a hold of us and we said, yay, because that'll really give us the time to fall back and regroup.
Surely.
Yeah. And we did. We went there and we house sat their place for a month. And in the interim, we found a place on Highland Avenue, which was centrally located, a 3-bedroom house. It's just about what we wanted. It's a great shape. And so...
Was there furniture in it?
No, absolutely unfurnished.
So you went into an empty house?
And started a 5-week sojourn everywhere. And our friends gave us things, and Phyllis's friends in the Delta Kappa Gamma, which she's vice president of, which is an honorary sorority of teachers, took care of her kitchen, everything. Okay, and we bought appliances and what have you. But there were a whole series of things. It just kept on going. I'm thinking off the top of my mind, I remember we went up to
Stoppers?
no, I'm looking here. Bob Evans.
Oh, Bob Evans, right.
Yeah, we went up there for breakfast one morning. And this may have been about a week afterwards, or 10 days. And the gal who takes you out, the receptionist, puts you in places, recognized us, and she told her boss, and after we'd had a very good breakfast, he came over and poured our last cup of coffee for us and told us that the breakfast was on the house.
Wonderful.
Now, that's not a humongous thing. What that is more than humongous as far as the individual human being is concerned. It has nothing to do with economics. He didn't know us from Adam's off ox. But what he did want to do was express his feeling that we had.
Helped him to...
Yeah, it's just like Thurber's, when they cleaned off Philly's diamond, there was no charge for it. He just said, take it, glad to, and it goes way beyond that. The Methodist Church asked us down for an evening of entertainment not too long ago, which I videoed, but it was just a friendly gesture. Another church in town sent us a check. It's the first mail we got was a check from a church. We really haven't been very active in it for 20 years, but nevertheless, we had housing offers, of a temporary nature from more than 100 people.
You're kidding.
No.
100 people?
I have a room, I will make a room, I have this, I have that. Over 100. That's where a lot of the things were and we had house offers from 5 different sources. One was Retmond, had a maid.
Wow.
You can imagine us with a maid. Good Lord. And another,
not the style of the Baldwins and the Robinsons.
Medina County Park System, when they worked out on what is it, something Valley Road?
Hidden Valley Road?
No.
Oh, no, Hubbard Valley Road, right.
Yeah, when they bought that last piece of land, the house came with it, and they offered that to us. It's a ranch house, but it was too far out, and the weather was really rotten. And
that was the worst weather we've had for years.
Trying to get that in and out of there, with any function. The Red Cross was on the scene immediately.
Were they really?
I didn't get shots of them. Okay.
That's our Wadsworth Red Cross people?
The Wadsworth Red Cross was there before the fire chief.
No kidding.
I'm not kidding you. And I don't remember her name, but I'm going to find it out because I'll be shooting some video in addition.
They must have a scanner or something.
Well, either that or she got a real neat sense of intuition. Or maybe she just sees black smoke and follows it. I don't know, but she was there. Okay? And the Salvation Army were on the line right away. And we know both the majors. We've had them for dinner already, and we've been down there, and they gave from personal things and also some of the things that the Salvation Army is good for. This household items and things like that. It was the First Christian Church that had given us a check, by the way.
That's your membership is in the First Christian Church, too,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Now then, I want you to lock onto this. I have a grandson, Matt, in the 5th grade at Lincoln School. From the 5th grade at Lincoln School, Phyllis and I get a gift certificate. Okay? And also the Lincoln Student Council sent us gift certificates for someplace else.
No kidding.
Yeah, there's about
Oh, kids will go after it, surely.
$50 there altogether.
No kidding.
Yeah, truly. Bixler Electric. Eldon Bixler is an old friend. We've known each other for 150 years.
Beef.
But we just aren't, socially involved, but we know each other. I've been buying things off of him, and he bought a painting off of me, and well, anyway. He said, I've got a refrigerator. He says, the EPA won't allow us to sell it because it got dented or something, and I don't know, But he said it's perfectly good. So he gave us a new refrigerator.
Wow. That's $1,000 right there.
Yeah, freezer on top, I mean, it's a new one. The Overlook staff sent gift certificates. Let's see here. We had all kinds of friends and neighbors gave clothing, housewares. The Medina County's park staff even sent us a check. They gathered up among the crew and sent it through. Anyway, when I shoot the video, the fire is just the beginning. It's just an entry, catalyst to get you into the story. But at first, when I was talking to the Beacon Journal and the Television 19, they said, "What, you're going to do that?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "What are you going to call it?" And I said, "Well, I'll call it Phoenix." But that's just a working title.
Mm-hmm.
What my program is going to be called is Fully Involved.
Fully involved. I heard Dick Honard say that on his radio there.
Yes, that's where I got
it. Fully involved.
I picked it up. And what it is, it's fully involved as far as the community of Wadsworth and the people who live
Ah, good. Doubly entendre. Very good.
here. Yeah, that's going to be the real story.
In other words, the house is fully involved, but you're thinking of it fully involved the city of Wadsworth. Wow, that's good.
Yep.
Of course, it doesn't surprise me.
I'll be around to the various people that I've talked about here, and we'll put her out. I won't have an editing equipment until probably July or August, but nevertheless, I tell you now that that's what I'm going to work on for the next.
Let me ask you a
6 months.
question, Homer. You may not want to answer because there are certain things which are much too personal, so much too private to answer. I've known Phyllis, and no one knows her better than you, obviously, and we know you. Now, you're an old tough curmudgeon, but nonetheless, you have a big heart and all those other kinds, and I say that lovingly. You know that I do. Phyllis is a good teacher, a model, therefore she just takes anything in stride. During some moments of really, really private time, was there a time when we broke down and said, "Oh my heavens, what are we going to do?" Now, if that's something you don't want to answer, you don't have to.
No, I don't mind answering it. Contrary to what people used to say to us, said, "Oh, how can you stand it?" We didn't have any. There was no time. I mean, if we'd have been 40 years old, maybe we could have come unglued.
Mm-hmm.
How could such a thing happen to us? But in your 70s, you don't have time to come unglued. Time's a wasting.
That's right. That's
It's
right.
really what it amounts to, I think. Time is a wasting.
Life is not a rehearsal.
Yeah, we had 20 good years in that house. We'd like to get, what proportion amount we can out of the next 20. But that means you start thinking positive, you start moving forward. You haven't got the time of day, except maybe once in a while, a little private moment. Something will tingle through you, and you say, geez, I sure wish I had that.
Yeah.
But we did have it. Mm-hmm. And that's the beautiful thing about it. We did have it. And it's in our memory banks until they go sour. And so we enjoyed it in its fullness and are looking forward to the next things to enjoy in their fullness. And we haven't got time, we really don't have time to dedicate to yesterday in that respect.
You're going to rebuild.
Yes, sir.
On the same spot.
Yeah, they're working on the plans right now.
Same configuration.
Pretty much so. We're going to extend the living room out on the deck another 4 feet, make it a little bigger. And we intend to increase the roof by 2 feet maybe, and then we can put a loft in up there.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to change the position of the front entrance coming in to the west side of the building. But otherwise, she's going to be pretty much the way she looked in the picture, and it'll be on the same spot.
We have known for years that you probably have, 2,000-3,000 films or whatever.
Tapes.
Tapes.
Yeah.
Most of those are gone.
Yeah. It wasn't 2,000 or 3,000, it was 1,200.
1,200.
But it lined the south wall of upper and lower of the living room, and also in on my editing set.
They're all gone.
All gone. There isn't anything left.
Do we have duplicates anywhere?
Yeah. For some reason, only to God and me, and I'm not sure what I'm talking about, I have 61 of my original films over in the storage room there.
Here in the studios?
Yes.
WCTV
61.
studio. We can all look back and say that was a good thing to do. You probably never thought of it at that time.
No, it's a simple case of sharing.
Yeah.
That's what it amounts to, is sharing.
Sharing, and therefore,
Yeah.
it's now safe. What are some of the things that you foresee between now and the time you move back in? You're living right now in a house, and you're buying underwear, $113 worth of underwear and so forth.
Well, we've come a long way.
Kmart and all of that kind of thing. What are some of the other things, just out of curiosity, we just take for granted all the things we have. What are some of the things that you absolutely had to go out and buy?
We just absolutely had to go out and buy everything.
Everything.
Philly doesn't like to shop too well. For 6 weeks, that's all we did was shop. Every day we go out with a list and come back in with a refrigerator, or not a refrigerator, a stove, or a chifferobe, or 10 pounds of stuff for the birds. We're feeding the birds out there now. Our bird feeders look like stalactites. They'd melted straight down. I got them. They'll make great devices to show as far as the way we came one day. But and we're feeding the birds yet, even though we just go out to an empty hole in the ground. But they have to be taken care of. We can't lose them.
Yeah, they don't
but
know about the
there
fire.
isn't anything. There is not a doggone thing, with the exception of money. The insurance company supplied us with money.
That's good.
Interim money, repair money, fix-it money, building money. And so we've been able to go out and judiciously buy things for our house, okay? But we intend to, the furniture we bought for our house, we intend to, when we go to move to our new house, we'll buy the furniture for that we want at that time. But this furniture will go to a needy family somewhere.
Oh, good. That's wonderful. See,
Well,
here
it was the
again,
insurance company that said this. We were going to rent chairs, tables, beds, sofas, lights, everything. And the insurance man said, look, he said, why don't you just purchase it? He said, Onshot's still in business? I said, oh yeah, bigger than ever. Well, try them. So we went down there and we got a very, very good deal at Onshot's. And so we filled our whole house up, and there are some things there that we will take to the new place. We bought them very judiciously. But there are many other things which we're going to give the Salvation Army or some needy family, and it's going to be, pretty good furniture, but somebody else that needs a hand up. Nobody makes it alone. So that's what we're going to do with that.
That'll be nice. Of course, that's a typical Homer Phillips kind of a thing to do.
We think it is prudent and logical.
And it's also helpful to other people.
Yeah.
Tell me, Homer, as you review what has happened, I heard you say, and eloquently so, that you're not going to go to the past. What does the past bring you that is going to be projected into the future in terms of your house? Now, I'll give you a couple of clues here. First of all, you're going to have a safe. There's no question about that.
Oh, yes.
Right. Now, the natural gas that you and 4 others, that was just a fluke. I mean, it has nothing to do with the fact that this was coming from a well rather than from nothing. Are we going to have any provisions there? Are there?
I've already taken steps in that direction.
And
what has happened is that there are 5 of us coming off the well, and the gas that exploded had no smell to it. That was determined by the inspectors.
And because natural gas does not have smell, what we smell gas is actually perfumed by the company. Is that right?
Yeah, that's by East Ohio, but the smell we used to get was from the petroleum in the gas line.
I see. Mm-hmm.
And this gas got through at extremely high pressure with no smell and blew my bloody house apart. Mm-hmm. Therefore, if you go out there now, you will find a place up on the ridge. There's a pole stuck in the ground with a red flag on it. It's like, it might as well be a cross, because that gas line ends right there. I dug it up the other day, cut it up, plugged it, and pulled the pipe out from across the creek and everywhere close to the house, and we'll never touch that gas again. I don't know
So you're not
what
going
we're
to use that
gonna
kind of gas anymore?
But I know what we're not going to use, and it's not going to be that gas. I don't want to be a malcontent or anything else. We were very fortunate to have gas for 13, 14 years. Okay, and I don't tend to say hey, those damn people that run the gas company, because they're not. It's a job. Something happened. It was an error in judgment, an accident. Mm-hmm. It's no different than a 6-year-old stepping off the curb and having a drug
That's right.
hit him.
Sure.
Things happen, and you got to evaluate them for what they are.
But that is something you've changed.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you're going to change?
Yeah. Well, the house itself, the design of it. I don't know if I talked on that or not. But
one of the things that you're probably not going to change is this huge wall between the living room and the kitchen, because Phyllis was standing behind there.
It's going to be different. It won't be stone as it was before, natural stone.
What will it be?
Probably brick, something that has a smooth surface to it and is easier to clean. Philly says that tears it. No more rocks.
No more rocks. Mm-hmm. This is going to be brick.
Right.
And probably made or constructed in such a way that it would be equally as.
Yeah. It had the microwave set into it and a few other things when we had it before, and we'll follow the same strict method.
You know, Homer, I suspect that as years go on, there will be many of these stories. But one of the things we wanted to do today was to get a good portion of it in the box, or in the can, as you would say, as a film producer, because in evaluating, as a matter of fact, I asked the fire chief and others, in evaluating the various fires we have had in Wadsworth and explosions, none has been this devastating. So now we have historically the most devastating most devastating house explosion, and the most wonderful thing that ever happened in Wadsworth also, and that the 2 people whom we love dearly were saved, and thanks be to God for that. And thank you so much for sharing with us today. And as time goes on, if you want to share some more, we will certainly listen.
All I can say to people who are looking in is, get going on it. You're burning daylight.
Good. You're burning daylight. Thank you very much.
You betcha.